If you spend any time listening to Marc Cunningham's content, and I do, I listen to a lot of it, you realize that he spends his days doing very different things. He has reached that thing that I talk about a lot on this show, where he is not bogged down by the mundane. He's working on high leverage activities. He goes to different types of conferences. He, puts out interesting content that's non-obvious. And it hit me. Since we talk so much about reaching this state, why not, through AI, right? Like, why not talk to somebody who got there the old school way, who got there by building an organization under them that allows him to focus on high leverage activities that move the needle. And what we uncovered is something that I have not forgotten since, and I keep with me. It's this opportunist mindset of Marc Cunningham that I think you're going to get a lot of value from. Enjoy this conversation with the brilliant Marc Cunningham. Welcome to the Property Management Frame Breakers podcast. I'm your host, Pablo Gonzalez, and I am here to introduce you to the folks in the property management space that have broken the frame of what you may believe was possible. This podcast is presented by Vendoroo. It is your all-in-one AI solution for resolving your maintenance needs. Let's go. One of the big messages that we're putting out is this idea that, yes, AI is going to be doing some of the work, right? But that doesn't mean that it's replacing people. What it's giving people is more meaningful work. And when I look at the level that you are operating at in your company, you are somebody that's gotten there. Like, it strikes me that you spend your time doing things very different than the average broker owner spends his time doing it. So I would love to talk about what you spend your time on.
Yes, I happy to go there. In big picture, before we kind of get into the details of that, just to comment on what you said there. All right, from my perspective, AI, it's not going to replace the owner of the company, right? So, like, I've never gone to bed worried, oh man, am I going to get replaced by AI? Like, no, because you have to think of the role. You've got a leasing role, you've got an accounting role, you've got accounts payable. So all the roles you have, and that's where we'll go in our conversation here. Right? My role is the president of the company, kind of big picture, directional, what things are we going to chase? AI is not going to replace that. And so whether you're a larger company, mid-sized company, a small company, I love the fact that you can layer on AI to clear your plate so that you can focus on that CEO role and the tasks associated with that. And so for me, that's what I try to spend all my time doing. I want to only do the things that only I can do. Right? What are those CEO level directional tasks that no, AI can't tell me that. I got to figure that out.
Perfectly framed. You're a professional at this. So that gives me the opportunity to say, you got there the old school way. You've gotten there by finding people, training them, gaining trust in them, right? Like, you just released an episode with your VP of Ops. Very, very clear that you have built that infrastructure layer underneath you. And I would love to know, at what point did you realize that you needed to spend your time doing different things than before? Like, was there any pain there? Right? Tell me about that.
It was an epiphany moment. So this was years ago. And after I answer this question, I'll go back and just kind of frame where we are today. So for people that don't know us, give you a sense that way. And I was doing it all, like we all do. And I don't know, maybe we had a person or two in the office, but we were all doing it all. And we managed a small mini storage. It's like 40 units, it's old junky mini storage building. And I got a lot going on. And I got leads coming in. Owners want to hire me. I got leads coming in. I got all this stuff. And I had to, that day, I had to go out and do 2 checkouts at the mini storage property. 2 people moved out of their 10 by 10 storage garage. And I had to go out and do a checkout, which entails rolling up a very dusty door, jumping backwards so all the dust doesn't fall down on you, looking inside, making sure that the concrete walls are still there, taking a picture, pulling the door back down, slapping a lock on, and driving half an hour across town. And I'm thinking to myself, this is ridiculous. Like, I got owner clients that want to sign up. Right? I'm trying to make money. I'm trying to grow this business, but I've got to take an hour and a half of my time and drive across town and do something that is just extremely low level. This is nuts. But we didn't have the money to like go hire somebody. So that was kind of putting one and one together. Okay, how can I get someone to do these things? But at the same time, how am I going to pay for them? Because it can't just come off the bottom line, or else that's where the circular hamster wheel comes. If I just hire
Mhm.
someone and I pay them and instead of me doing it, and that didn't move the needle at all. I want to see progress. So how can we make the money to hire someone to go lift up the door of the mini storage? And so my thought was, okay, I'm going to hire him, but my immediate focus has to be, how am I going to pay for him? How is the company going to generate the money to pay a salary for this person? And so that became like my primary focus. And what I realized is that, gosh, when I focus on that, I figured it out pretty quickly. Not only can we pay for this person, but we can generate more than this person
Mm.
is having to cost us as an employee. And then we kind of hit the next little stepping stone. It was the exact same thought process. We had to hire a front desk person. And I was like, a front desk person doesn't generate any money. They're just, they're answering the phones, they're opening the mail, they're doing all the admin type stuff. How am I going to pay for this person? It can't come out of Mark's comp. So how is the company going to generate the money? And maybe it's just organic growth. Maybe it's increasing some services. Like, I don't know. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I had to do it. And so every person we hired early on, that was very intentional of my obligation as the company owner becomes, how is the company going to generate enough money to pay for this person? And so every time we hired, that was my thought. And so now, like, that's where I live. That's all I do. I've got to figure out, if we're going to grow, how are we going to pay for it? How do we allocate resources? I mean, I view that as a big part of if you want to know what my job is to make my people successful and to figure out how we're going to allocate our resources. Those are my two jobs every day. Now, before we go on, I'm sorry, I'm taking over the conversation here, Pablo. But for people that don't know, let me just kind of explain who we are, where we are. So my dad started our company back in 1978. Been around a long time. Started very, very small. I say I was employee number one because I was free child labor, and I was. I mean, my dad had me doing all sorts of stuff. So I've been in the business a long time. Studied finance and real estate in college. Did some things in the commercial world, the multifamily world after I graduated with a degree in finance. Joined my dad's company permanently 20 some odd years ago. We've grown slow and steady, really. When I came on with him originally, I think we were 100 doors maybe in a few commercial properties. Today, we just actually, yesterday, we just hit 1,200 residential doors, just broke that 1,200 number. So we're excited about that. We also manage a couple hundred commercial doors, retail, industrial, office type stuff. We'll close 35 sale transactions. We've got a sales department that way as well. We've got a team of 30 folks, just under 30 folks. We've got 15 or 17, I don't know, 18 property managers that work for us. And so under me, I have two VPs. I've got a VP of property management, and our 17 PMs report to him. And then we've got a VP of operations, Jessica, and all of our other team members report to her. So that's kind of how we're structured.
I love that. I love that perspective. And what I really like that you really shone a light on is the non-obvious idea that when you are going to bring people in, the next activity, right? Like the logical step is, how do I generate more value in order to afford this? And if for every person that you bring in, for every investment that you make, you're thinking, you're looking at it from the lens of, if I make this investment, what does this do to add, as opposed to like, how much does this cost, right? Like, it feels like you're seeing things as investments versus costs. And you understand that your side of it includes an investment as well, which is, how do you allocate, in this case, the resources, your time and your effort, in a way that then justifies his investment and provides whatever the ROI is going to be.
And it's hard. It's hard to figure those things out. And then as we get bigger and bigger and scale more, I just mentioned the two VPs under me. So
Yeah.
those are like mid-level managers. They don't generate revenue for the company. They manage our
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So we've got to scale that into the equation, because I never want to go backwards. I never want to bring a person on and just think, well, we'll have to make less. We've always got to, if we're not making more, then what's the point?
Yeah. And here you are today, right? Like, so what I'm hearing you say is basically, as you invest more and more, you have to find higher and higher leverage activities, right? Like, I'm sure it was easier to find the revenue to pay for the person that's going to drive around, open up garage doors for people, like self-storage unit doors for people, versus your VP of ops, right? Like,
Absolutely.
and when I look at you now, Mark, I see a guy that is highly engaged, in a bunch of high leverage activities. I see you creating content, right? Like I see you, like you have your podcast. I see you doing quarterly market reports and yearly updates for your clientele as well. I see you I see you speaking, which is a very high leverage activity. And then I also see you going to very different types of events, right? Like when I hear you talking on the podcast, I get the sense that yes, you go to the NARPM stuff and things like that, but I also see you going to like more outside of just the property management scope and more into like the real estate ecosystem and economic ecosystem. And I wonder kind of like, what was your journey to getting to those higher leverage activities?
Yeah. I think it starts with that idea of we can learn so much outside of not just the property management space, but the real estate space. I mean, we are such an insular organization, right? Everybody, if you're in the property management business, is a property manager. And so we regurgitate the same thing over and over. And then we wonder why we're in a hamster wheel. Well, it's because you're talking to the same people that think just like you, type of a thing. So I learned early on that, gosh, if I want to grow us beyond this, not just grow like more doors, but grow with how we're thinking and think differently, think more strategically. I want to be around people that I have no business being around. Right? People that are like, oh, you can't get in a room with those guys. What are you talking about? You don't belong there. That's what you've got to stretch for, side of things. So for example, I'll tell you about my day today. I got up this morning, got up about 6 this morning. I had breakfast with a guy that I serve on a board with, a nonprofit board. And we were doing some board work for this. Has nothing to do with property management, but it's a leadership thing. I serve on this board and I'm chairman of this board. So that it's a leadership aspect. Got home after that. This is usually what I do every morning when I get up is I opened up my copy of the Wall Street Journal and I sit there for half an hour and read the Wall Street Journal. Very little in the Wall Street Journal talks about property management, but the stuff you learn is unbelievable in the directions it takes you. So that's some of my most valuable time as far as just getting your brain going. Like, gosh, what's Uber doing today? Oh, that's an interesting concept. And the things you can tie back to property management business is just unbelievable. So many of the things we're doing, ideas we've done, they didn't come out of the PM business. They came out of some abstract oil and gas company I read about in the Wall Street Journal, type of a thing. So I'll spend some time doing
Bring that home for me. Bring that home for me, Mark. Give me an example of that, because there's nobody that believes this more than like I believe in everything that you're saying from the bottom of my heart, including serving on boards and cross contextualization. But I do hear people. I'll just say it directly. For me, they'll be like, "You're not a property manager. What can I learn from you?" kind of thing. And I feel like most of my value has come from bringing things from outside of one context into another. Can you give me an example of something that you have cross contextualize into like your business practice or into property management?
Yeah. Okay. I got an email today from a property manager. Said, "Hey, I'd love to get some time with you and learn how you guys market. All right. How are you guys doing marketing? Because our marketing is very good. We spend virtually nothing. We bring in well over 100 owner leads every month. I looked it up before we got on today. We brought on about 200 new doors thus far this year, all ones and twos. Right. It's not like we got a big guy with 50 doors, all ones and twos. So our marketing works very well for us. That's something that we've honed very well. Now, what we do within our marketing is education-based video type content. So that's what we do. We don't pay for clicks. We don't spend a nickel on that stuff. Education, because people don't want to be sold; they want to be educated. So we just educate, and typically we do it through video content. Okay, we've done it for a number of years. It works great. That idea came from a guy who wrote a book who sold swimming pools. And this guy sold swimming pools, and he was talking about how he grew his business. And he was talking about the education that he would give people. It was all education based. And it wasn't so much video, like we kind of layered that on from somewhere else. But it was like, hey, stop trying to sell. And, people don't want to be sold. And it doesn't matter what. And he was selling swimming pools. And I read this book on a plane, cover to cover. And my mind was just racing. I was like, this is not what our industry talks about. We talk about, how do you got to do the features and the benefits and how do you set yourself apart and all the same stuff. I mean, I've got a degree in business. I took marketing classes. I get that. But it was like, no. People don't want to be educated. Just like your doctor educates you. You don't pick your doctor because he has a really good flyer or a really good website, or your accountant, or you pick them because you're like, I trust them. I trust them because they are really good on education. So that was the direction we went. And then we layered on the video type stuff years ago. And again, I didn't get that from the PM industry. We saw some other people trying that. We layered on and on. It's worked so well that today that's kind of what we're known for is we do the education. I didn't think of it myself, copied it from the swimming pool guy.
Okay. Perfect example. Thank you very much. All right. So your day starts, you read the Wall Street Journal, you're looking for stuff. What else? What happens after you read the Wall Street Journal?
I do have to keep my finger on the pulse of the business, right? I can't just keep my head in the clouds all day long. I've got to know what's going on in the business. And I told you we picked up 100 or 200 doors so far this year. I know we've lost 100. The reason I know that is because I track those things. So today's Tuesday. Today I had my weekly call with my 2 VPs. So every Tuesday at 10 a.m. I get on the phone with Jessica. She and I do a 30-minute call. Hey, what's going on? What do I need to know about? And she'll have some stuff for me. I'll have some stuff for her. Ben, our VP of Property Management, jumps on 30 minutes in. The three of us have 30 minutes. Then she drops off. Then I'm on with 30 minutes from Ben. So we completed that today. Went through all that. I've got a bunch of notes from that. Tomorrow, Wednesday, I'll be in the office. We've got a weekly vacancy delinquency meeting every Wednesday at 10 a.m. I run that meeting. To this day, I'm the one running the meeting, because I've got some information I want to share. We're going to go through all the properties that have been vacant for more than 30 days. And I'm going to ask why and what do we need to do. And we're changing some internal pricing tomorrow on some fees we have in place that I've been talking about with Ben, my VP, because our market's slow. And so rather than just telling our owner clients to drop rents, we're dropping some of our fees because that's become a hurdle. That's a decision I need to make. And so Ben and I talked about it. We're going to do that. I'll roll that out to the team. We've got a person who's going to be leaving us. My daughter, actually, she works with us. And so she's doing some other things. I'm sad to lose her, but we're taking that position and kind of remelding that position. So I'm spending time doing that with Jessica. So I do spend time in the business. I'm not just kicked back in my hammock side of things. So I'll spend the rest of the afternoon prepping on that, working on that. And then I'll close out my day today. You and I are recording this towards the end of the month here. I've got to start prepping for the educational stuff I'm going to do for our PM build here next month. It's my kickoff for that, and the podcast there and the videos there. So that's kind of it. And then I worked out right before you and I got on here. I was down in the basement for the last hour and a half, just doing a wimpy man's version of a workout.
Awesome. Okay. I mean, seems like a pretty normal day. I mean, it seems like a normal day of a CEO, right? Like some open creative space, one-on-ones with your key people, spending time inside certain strategic meetings and certain strategic initiatives that you really, really think are crucial at a moment in time that you can be in and be out, but it's not an ongoing thing that then leaves you space to then move on to the next strategic initiative, right?
Yeah. And it's challenging because you've probably experienced this, Pablo, but as you do that more, the challenge is you start to feel like you're cheating and you start to feel lazy. So when you have to create more space, we get busier, and we see results. And it's like, man, this is great. The harder I work, the more results I'm seeing. This is great. But you've got to, as you just said, you've got to have that space to kind of, to kick your feet up on the desk, to open up the Wall Street Journal and to read about things that have nothing to do with property management. Well, part of me thinks like that, Mark, that's a terrible use of your time, man. Like you should be doing emails. You should be talking to your people. Like you're being lazy. That is it's lazy to sit and read a book at 2:00 in the afternoon, isn't it? No, that's the job of a CEO. The job is to get out of the office, to think beyond what the next task is. Now, someone has to be doing the next task. Like you can't forget about that. But every single person I've ever talked to who goes through this experiences that same thing. Like I tried it, I'm taking Fridays off out of the office, and I feel like my people are looking at me like, you lazy, no good boss. You're just going home and taking a nap, aren't you? And I don't know what to do during that time. Like it's a challenging thing to figure out how to be disciplined with creating that space.
Man, I can totally relate to this. Like it is very much something I've spoken to both inside Vendoroo and outside Vendoroo, right? Like I don't know if I shared with you, right? But like I am chief evangelist at Vendoroo, and then I also have my own business as well that is a marketing agency of sorts. And it is the leverage of having great teammates that allows me to be able to like be 95% of my headspace focus on Vendoroo and 5% focus on everything else. And even within that, like I'll have my Brian, who's my right hand, right? Like he'll push me to create open space and to get some rest, to, like to go have like a creative time and whatnot, And it's always so hard to accept it, right? Like there is this, like, there's a certain layer of guilt that you have to work through that I
Do you
think,
feel it? Like, do you feel guilty during those times, or have you felt guilty?
yes, at times I feel guilty when I have a lot of head trash going on, I feel guilty. When I'm at my peak, I sense my self-worth of, oh, no, 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 this is an investment into like me uncorking the next big thing that's going to really support the team and create what you're saying, right? Like create this, what's the next big lever of value that we can create to bring them more resources and be able to
Hmm.
do better things. So like I oscillate between those things. It's still pretty
Yeah.
new, and I'm just starting to understand that piece of, okay, just because I'm not an AI engineer that it's out there building our agents, like going on 72-hour marathons of like coding something, doesn't mean that I'm not using my time correctly to impact this company in like really, really big ways.
Yeah, that's right. When I first started this journey of this, I remember I was like, you know what? I'm going to start leaving the office at noon on Fridays. This is pre-COVID, and I was like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to get home on noon, and yeah, maybe I'll kick off a little bit early on those afternoons, but I'm going to use most of that time for the things you and I are talking about right now, Pablo. Right? Like I'm going to read a book. I'm going to think. I need some time out of the office, and so I'm going to start leaving at noon on Fridays. That was just about impossible. I mean, it literally took me a year to get to the point that I was doing that, because you look at your schedule and you're like, oh yeah, I got time at 2 o'clock on Friday because I had left that stuff open.
Yeah.
But I started doing it. And I remember I said to Jessica, she was there at the time, our VP, I said, Jessica, do you think it's okay that I'm doing this? Like I feel like everyone, they see me leave and they're like, well, there goes Mark. He's probably golfing or something. Like, do you think it's okay that I'm not coming in on Fridays? And she goes, Mark, you not coming in on Fridays is the best thing you can do for this company. And yeah, I had to kind of think about that for a minute. But her point was, and she said, first of all, like, we depend on you too much. Like, people need to learn how to think for themselves. It can't always be like, well, go ask Mark, go ask Mark, go ask Mark. Like, it's okay for you not to be here. And it's a different vibe when you're not here. Absolutely it is. Like, it's a little more chill because the boss isn't here on Fridays. But we know you're out doing stuff to move the business forward. And I always remember that. I was like, okay, I almost needed that permission from my VP to do that.
As you're listening to this and you're thinking, man, I want to have Mark's lifestyle. I want to lead the way that he leads. You realize he got there the old school way. He found people under him that he was able to train and able to place. You listen to his idea of, like, if he had to hire somebody, he then had to go find the opportunity to pay for that hire. It's very similar to how you think about AI these days, except the chance of training an AI and them not quitting on you is much higher, and the cost of paying for the extra investment is much lower. That is what agentic AI represents, and at Vendoroo, we are building the only AI-first agentic solution for maintenance. If you want to find a way to get yourself out of the minutia of maintenance and be more of a maintenance manager, maintenance strategist, right? Like not having to deal with the million follow-ups and the coordination and all that stuff, and being able to triage and troubleshoot every single vendor phone call, every single resident renter phone call and problem, then hiring Vendoroo to do your maintenance coordination for you so that you can focus on the strategic the way that Mark does across his business is the move. Go check it out at vendoroo.ai. Do you get better at it? Like, is it like a muscle where, because for me it's new. I'm just starting to like make peace with it. Does it get easier? Does it come and go? Like, are you beyond it at this point? Like,
It does get easier. Absolutely. So today, where I'm at today, I go in the office once a week. So I'm in on Wednesdays. Wednesdays, I'm in the office. That's it. Other than that, unless there's a few days a month where, I'll have a meeting or something. So there's a handful of other days where I'm in. But as far as like a recurring schedule, I'm going to be in the office on Wednesdays. And even then, it's only for 3/4 of the day. I don't feel guilty about that. I don't think my people are like, what's Mark doing? Because when we run our monthly team meeting, which we'll do on a Wednesday, I mean, man, we're going hard, and I'm teaching them a bunch of stuff that I've been doing, and I'm talking about the direction, and we're doing this over here, we're doing that over there. So I think my folks, I think, would say, yeah, Mark's got his finger on the pulse, and the results speak for themselves. Right? If we were going backwards, if we weren't growing, then yes, then the question, then I'd have to look at myself and say, gosh, Mark, what are you doing? Like, are you cheating? with this stuff. So yes, Pablo, for me at least, it has absolutely gotten easier. It took me literally years to get to the point that, okay, it's a half day Friday, then it's all day Friday, then it's a half day Thursday and a half day Friday, and then it's 2 days a week. Well, now I'm down to 1 day a week.
Interesting. Okay. Let's talk about, so that's like the daily schedule. Let's talk about a little bit more big picture things. Tell me about your content operation, right? Like you just said that you've invested in educational content. We see, in the property management industry, a lot of us see your educational content for other property managers. Do you have like a dual sided operation where one, you're educating the Denver market and then the other, you're educating property managers? Is it all one and the same? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, the way so I mentioned that the book I read on the pool guy, right? I mean, that's where we got this idea of, gosh, we've got to start putting some education-based content out. And this wasn't for property managers. This was to grow our business. I'm sitting right now in my home office here is where I'm at. And I was in this same home office, the very first video we did. I literally grabbed my son, who I think was, I don't know, 13 at the time. It's like, Gabriel, stand on my desk. Like he stood on this desk right here. I stood against that wall right there. I took the clock off the wall. I stood there. I gave him my iPhone. I said, hey, hit the record button. And so he's like, what are you doing now? I was just shut up, hit the record button and start recording. I was like, and so we did it. Hey, I'm Mark with Grace Management. A common question we hear is, what should you expect to pay if you hire a property manager? So if you're thinking of hiring a property manager, here's some fees and things you should ask about. And I talked for 2 or 3 minutes. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. I had no script, but I'd had that conversation 800 times over the last number of years. So it wasn't a hard topic to answer. I didn't have a lavalier. I didn't have any lights. I didn't have my cameraman was my 13-year-old son standing on my desk in his underwear, doing what 13-year-old boys will do in their underwear to make their dads laugh. It was hideous, Pablo. But I didn't know what I was doing. But we took that video and we put it on our website and we kind of blasted it out. And then that started from there. So we did those for a couple of years and they just worked. I mean, I'm an action oriented guy. For people that overplan, that's where I think things fall down. I'll get emails from people and they'll say this, hey, Mark, I want to start doing the videos like you talk about. Love it. Can you tell me the equipment that you recommend I use? And I immediately say to them, that's what I say. I respond back to them. I'll say, okay, yes, I will, but I'm going to bet you $500 you're never going to get a video online. I hate to be the bad guy here, but you're not going to do it. Because what goes into your head is what equipment doing. You're planning. And we can plan to the default of action. Like just record the video. Do you have a phone with a camera on it? Yeah. Then go record it. Okay, I'll get that on the camera. No. Like right now, go stand against your wall and take your phone and put it against your face and hit the record button. Like do it. And it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to get it done. So we did that for a couple of years and they weren't perfect. They weren't that great, but they were effective. And then we started getting questions from
how do you rate effectiveness? Like how are you judging it at first?
Leads, owner leads. Okay. I shouldn't say half. Many of the owner leads we get will say, I found you online. I found your videos online. And so they all
natively to YouTube?
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
Because of the topics we were doing. We would talk about the new law. I remember we did one. It was like, do you have to allow marijuana in your rental property? I'm in Colorado. So a couple of years ago, it was all marijuana. So we did this video. Do you have to allow marijuana in your rental property? Did it, posted online. And most people weren't doing this stuff. They still aren't doing it, but they really weren't doing it back then. We put it on YouTube. And the next day, a person from my office, he's like, Mark, I just Googled the topic of marijuana and rental properties. We're coming up number 1 on that topic. Why? Because we were the only one talking about it. Nobody else would talk about it. So we get calls, we get leads, and people say, hey, I saw your video on this. And what that does is it's about as close to magic as you can get. Because now when they call us, if they've watched that video stuff, they view us as knowledgeable. They view us as we know her. We don't need to sell ourselves. We don't even use that word. Like I hate that word, your sales department. This email I got today. Mark, can you tell me about your sales and marketing department? Like the word sales is stricken from our office because we don't sell. We partner with people but we're not selling anything. We're educating. And if people want to give us the key to their house, we'll take really good care of it. But I don't like that idea of trying to sell. We don't overcome objections. We explain our process. So it's just a different mentality, but it starts with being education focused in that. So we've absolutely done that. Then that has turned into doing the same thing for property managers just because we kept getting asked about it. So we kind of stumbled into that as well.
I love it, man. The big takeaway I'm getting there that shows up often for content creators is like propensity for action and failing forward and moving is very, very true, right? Like not overthinking it, putting it out there, because the piece of content itself is a feedback loop, right? Like, and don't sell yourself short of like putting out a feedback loop that can help you by moving
Yeah.
forward.
And
And it's
don't be a
you got good
perfectionist.
feedback, and you got good feedback really quickly, which is like playing craps for the first time and winning a bunch of money. So now like you're like hooked on the content thing, and that's been like a positive reinforcement for you.
Yeah, it works, and it costs nothing. I mean, it literally costs nothing, right?
Yeah.
YouTube is free. Your iPhone is free, so it costs nothing. It's the most effective form of marketing there is. It's also the most evergreen form of marketing there is, right?
Mhm.
A pay-per-click, once they click it, you paid for that click, and that is no more. But when we put a video out there or a podcast out there, that lives on and on and on forever. And the more it gets watched, the more it gets promoted. The more it gets promoted, the more it gets watched. I mean, it's magic, really, the way that stuff works. So absolutely, we keep doing that stuff. And to give you an idea of like how of a non-perfectionist I am, I'm probably too extreme that way. When I first started doing the podcast for property managers, I just do it. So we recorded one with this guy, and I never listened to him because I don't have time. I mean, I'm not going to go into deeper. So we recorded it, sent it to the podcast people. They get it released or whatever, and I it released, and I get a call later that day from a buddy of mine. He's like, "Hey, did you listen to your podcast?" Like, no, I didn't. It's like, well, you might want to listen to it because I think you meant to turn it off, and you didn't turn it off at the end. And you guys were talking about some pretty personal stuff. I was like what? So I went and listened to it, and sure enough, like I thought I had stopped it, but I didn't stop it, and we were talking about stuff. And I mean, it was nothing terrible, but I was like, oh no, that should not be in the podcast. So I had a quick call, and I was like, hey, pull that podcast down and cut that. But because if I was a perfectionist, if I listened to everything, then I wouldn't do it. Right? That's the downside of being a perfectionist, is it causes people not to act.
I love it. Fail forward. Tell me about the turning towards the property management industry themselves. It sounds like, if I read between the lines of what you just said, is that you're starting to get a whole bunch of like questions about it. So you're like, might as well serve this thing at scale. And then you started making content for other property managers. Is that how it went?
Kind of. So philosophically, I'm always very opportunistic. Right? I'm not goal oriented at all. Like I truly am not. I don't have goals, but I am very opportunistic. I'm looking for opportunities to follow, whatever they are. That's just how I'm wired. I've always been that way. I don't have a goal of educating property managers, but a couple of years ago, the way I stumbled into this, a couple of years ago, there was an event. It was a PM event, and one of the speakers didn't show. And so the guy, I knew the guy that was lining it up. He's like, "Hey, would you do a breakout session for me? Because my speaker didn't show." And just come in. He's like, "You're a process guy, right? You do systems." I was like, "Yeah, wait, just come in and talk about that for half an hour. Can you do that? Can you help me out?" "Yeah, okay, whatever, sure." So I did that, and it went well. And so I get this call about a month later from this woman, and she goes, "Okay, Mark, this is going to sound crazy, Mark. This is going to sound crazy. I'm an agent for real estate speakers. I've got a company, and I send out real estate speakers to like realtor events. And this woman who works for me was in the session you did. And she said you were really good. And I need someone to go to Virginia in 2 weeks because my person bailed and talked about property. And I know this sounds crazy, but I'll pay you $1,000 to go to Virginia for a day and speak to this thing." And I'm a cynical guy, Pablo. So I'm waiting for so if you send me $500, I will make you famous. I'm waiting for that. I was like, all right, sure. I mean, I had no plan. Okay, sure. So I went out there, did this thing, and did it. And she was like, "Okay, that was really good. Like you're good at this. Let's do some of this." And so she started sending me around to all these realtor events. And I'd go in, I'd be the property management guy. And I'd talk about real estate investing. I'd talk about this or that. Still no plan, like no grand plan, just following the opportunity. And then PMs would start calling me, and then, "Hey, I heard you speak at this thing. Can I get some of your time? Can I get some of your time?" And I was having that happen over and over. And finally, I was like, "No, you can't get my time. Like I have no time left." And somebody was like, well, can you just record? Why don't you just record that thing that you talked about? Right? You were out there talking. Can you just record it? And I was like, "Ah, yeah, I guess I could just record that little talk I gave and put that online." And so we created the website, and I was very hesitant like all of this was dragging us kicking and screaming. I didn't want to make a website. I remember talking to PMW, and they were like, "Mark, make the stupid website." I was like, "It's going to cost me $500. I don't want to pay for a website. It's never going to pay off." And they're like, "Make the website." So, we made the website, started doing some of that. And it was just very following that opportunity. There was no plan for coaching. There was no plan for speaking. There was no plan for sponsorships, right? I mean, you guys, Vendoroo, you guys are going to be on our PM build as a premier sponsor. That was never my idea. A vendor reached out at one point in time, was like, hey, can we sponsor your podcast and your stuff? And I was like, I don't even know what that means. Like, sponsor our website. What does that look like? So I would love to tell you it was all some grand plan, Pablo, but no, but it was having a philosophy of being opportunistic.
This is super inspiring, man. I like what you've accomplished. I know so many people that get into content creation just so that they can be speakers, and they're like
Yeah.
obsessed with
Oh, yes.
and and it doesn't work. Like I haven't,
No.
the people that I met at podcast conferences in 2019 when I started podcasting, like I look around and there's very few of us that have been paid thousands of dollars to go give a speech kind of thing, right? But what I hear in your story is that you're not out there trying to like seek fame or anything like that. You have created enough mental headspace so that you can go be yourself, which is an opportunistic person that gets to showcase his skill set in front of people because you're in that mode all the time. And I find that incredible. Were you at some point in this journey, like when did you realize that you are an opportunistic person that leans into opportunities and then actually like has this default, it sounds like this default opportunistic thing has been what has built the space for you? Or like were there times where you were frustrated that you were like in a different box and you weren't able to like exercise this muscle kind of thing?
No, because it has just always been it's been opportunistic for our business. So
Yeah.
for example, when my dad and I didn't start the business with him, he started the business, but he and I were doing this, and the real estate market, this was back in the mid 90s, the real estate market in Denver, like it was collapsing back then. And so we were like, an owner called us, was like, man, I just need out. You guys want to buy my property? And we're like, huh, yeah, well, sure, we'll buy your property. And so we started buying rental properties. It was no plan. It was just keeping our eyes open. But like to come full circle in our conversation, if you don't create the headspace to keep your head up, then it won't go up naturally. Naturally, our heads, as if we're hard workers, our heads go down. I got to do my emails. I got to follow up with this. I got to fill out that thing. I got to work. That's the natural tendency of all of us that are hard workers. And that's good. But if we do that and you never lift your head up out of the weeds, you're never like, oh my gosh, I never realized I could go buy some real estate over here. So we bought some real estate. And when the market then got hot, we sold the real estate. Why? Because that was the opportunity. So we sold out. I still got a few things, but sold it all. And I know people are like, oh my gosh, you should never sell real estate. Of course you should sell it. Like, don't be an idiot. Like if the opportunity is to sell at an extreme price, then take the opportunity. And so it's always with that mentality, I've never been frustrated with like, oh, why isn't this thing happening? Because I don't want anything to happen. I'm just waiting for things that present themselves. And sure, if it sounds fun, let's go chase it and see where that leads.
I love it. All right, let's talk opportunity then, man. I just asked you last time we spoke about like what you're like really researching these days, and you told me one of the most interesting answers that I've ever heard. You said monopolies, because you see a future opportunity in this space that regulatory changes and whatnot. Can we jam on that for a little while? Like how you are identifying this opportunity?
Okay, so this is where this came from. Again, this is that headspace. There's a great talk, and everybody should go Google it, by Peter Thiel. I don't know if it's Thiel or Thiel, a number of years ago. And the title of his talk was Competition is for Losers. Competition is for losers. And the point of his talk was, when you start a business, we all say competition's great, but no, it's not. Like if you want to win something, the less competitors, the more likely you are to win. And so businesses that are monopolies, they always say they're not, right? Google's like, we're not a monopoly. We're just a marketing company. And so, but of course they're a monopoly. I mean, that's who you go get your clicks from. And then companies that want to be successful but aren't, they will say they have monopoly. Oh no, we're a monopoly. We're an ice cream store in downtown Denver, and we're the only ice cream store in downtown. No, you're not. What are you talking about? There's 50 other ones. Yeah, but we sell sherbets, So it's this idea that if you really want to be successful, monopolistic tendencies, yeah, that plays out. Now, I think in my market especially, the government is forcing our industry into a not just a monopoly, but like a duopoly or several small companies, because of the legislation stuff that is pounding our industry. It is very hard to start a PM company anymore. It used to be anybody could start a PM company. Sure, get a lease, throw a sign in the yard, and you can be a property manager. And for some markets are still that way. Our market is not that way. So how are we going to play? Where's the opportunity for us? Is the best opportunity for us to keep pushing back on this legislation? No, I think that's it's wasted breath. When we're like, no, we've got to band together. These real estate owners have to band together and fight this bad legislation. Oh, please. You think you're going to overrule all of the renters and tenants and growth-friendly legislation? No, you're not. So stop, get out of the way of that train, and let's get on that train. And so, you know what? If they want to go that direction and they want to bring forth more legislation, let's get on that train and let's participate in that. And let's make sure that we are operating in such a way that we're compliant. And it's hard. Man, it's hard. It is very, very challenging. But I'm literally seeing my competitors close up shop all over the place. And so that the opportunity then that has been thrust on us is there's only going to be a few players in this industry left out here. Now, I mean, the irony is that's the antithesis of what the laws are trying to do, right? They're trying to create more opportunity, and all they're doing is going the opposite direction. So I'm going to lean into that, and I'm going to say, okay, let's get in with that. Let's figure out how we can. I'm having calls with legislatures right now about requiring a property management specific license in Colorado. So I want there to be a property management specific license to do property management, because so many people do PM and they don't know what they're doing. They do it wrong, and then they give companies like us a black eye because they go do things that are illegal and wrong. So yeah, you know what? I want license. Now, philosophically, I'm opposed to more government regulation. I don't want more oversight and regulation on me. But the opportunity is to say, yeah, bring it on. Bring on the legislation, bring on the requirements, and we will navigate that. And most of our competitors won't. And that creates what it is creating for us right now, which is more owner leads than we can handle. Owners call us and say, I can't navigate these laws. Help me. Can we do that? Of course we can. So I think that's where it kind of started in my head. And this, by the way, also was on a trip I was on, reading some books about this stuff and thinking, gosh, how do we navigate this? And so, yeah, I've been going deep on this stuff. I think it's fascinating.
The idea that you are turning the bug into a feature, I think is freaking genius, right? Like you're looking around and you're saying, government's making my life difficult. I can sit here and complain about it, or I can say, oh, all right, let's make it as difficult as possible for everybody, because I know that I can fight through the melee, right? Like if you have that already ingrained advantage of confident systems, people, like a brand and all these kinds of things, this idea of like making it make it harder on everybody, and like, let's turn it way up, and now let's go. I just, it's so counterintuitive to the usual mindset that a business owner is in, where they don't see the obstacle as the way. They see it just kind of like as
sure
obstacle as opposed to an advantage. I think that's brilliant, man. So when you are, and now I'm just kind of like deconstructing how you take advantage of opportunities and how you think things, but like, so the leap from embracing the bug as a feature to let's study monopolies. Am I right in thinking that you're trying to see how other people have kind of like, if other people have done it in this way, or if it's another way, or what, like what is that?
Yes, that's exactly what I started kind of going down that rabbit trail of, okay, well, what is a monopoly? I mean, I kind of knew what it was. I played the board game when I was a kid, but I've heard the term, but what does that look like? And there are very different reasons that monopolies are created, right? And you can go in different directions. If you wanted to, you could almost be your own little monopoly if you underpriced everybody, right? If someone's in their market and they say, you know what, I'm going to give away my services for free until all my competitors close up, and then I'm going to raise price. Now that's not it's not moral, and there's that aspect of things. I'm not saying we're doing this, but like there's multiple ways of industries have created monopolistic tendencies that way. And you look at at big tech, they're very good at this stuff. You look at Standard Oil. I'm reading the biography right now of Rockefeller at Standard Oil. Fascinating stuff. So there's multiple different ways of doing that, from a marketing standpoint, from a pricing standpoint, from a expanding your network standpoint. And the biggest is from a legal standpoint, right? There are legal monopolies out there. Absolutely, there are. And those industries, I mean, look at the banking industry, right? I mean, there's a lot of legal hoops you got to jump through if you want to have a bank. Is that a monopoly? Well, kind of, because you got to jump through all those legal hoops. And so therefore, guys like you and me, Pablo, can't go open banks. I mean, could, but it'd be really hard because the barriers to entry are so high. And so and this was a mindset shift, by the way, because when all this industry stuff was happening during COVID and all the laws and all this stuff, it was hard. Like it was depressing. Like, man, we're trying so hard to take care of our tenants. And then this other law passes and now we can't do this. And we're labeled the bad guy and we can't do this. So it was a very intentional shift of, you know what? I don't want to feel like the punching bag anymore. Let's get on the other side of that. And let's be the solution. And is it going to come with some challenges? Sure, it will, but we can figure this out. It's not rocket science. We can figure this out. And what will be the results of this? The ability to help more owners and help more tenants. So I said this to the legislature. There's a legislature in Colorado. He's driving a lot of this stuff, like not really known as a friend of the industry. And I got on the phone with him. I've had a couple of calls. And I said, hey, we've been around since 1978. And I got to tell you, the reason I want licensing for our industry is a couple of reasons, but one is the mantra is like landlords hate tenants and tenants hate landlords right now. That is being driven home. We reject that. My dad started this company in 1978 because we believe when property management is performed with integrity, tenants win and landlords win. And we've always believed that. We always will. But that's not the mantra that you guys are selling out of the legislature. It's landlords are bad. We got to go get them. So by bringing licensing into this, you guys will know who's doing it. You can clean up some of the bad actors, and we're going to raise the bar on who's doing this. And he said, hey, I appreciate that narrative. I hadn't thought about it that way before. So that's a much better use of my time versus responding to an email or spending time on Facebook.
I love it, man. So many counterintuitive things, right? Like you engage with the person who is basically the enemy. You're instead of like villainizing them, you're bringing them close and you're getting in their ear and you are influencing his narrative as opposed to shying away from it. Again, making an opportunity.
Yeah, but I'm not trying to sell my case of, hey, here's why you need to stop legislating us. I mean, that you're going to lose. I'm not going to convince him that he should start making our state more landlord friendly. Like that's not going to happen.
Yeah, totally. No, you are aligning interests with him and offering a point of view that he can get behind in a way that allows you to collaborate with him, right? Like that is high leverage negotiation 101, right? Like the other thing I see you doing is I talk a lot about category design and just like this idea of everything is the way it is today because somebody made it that way from the old way kind of thing. And those like the formula for that stuff, the formula for like really big change and really big opportunity is context change plus innovation plus missing, right? So like if a context changes, right? Like something goes from in one way to another, then either where it moved from leaves a vacuum, which is like a new problem, or where it moved to, it now gets closer to solving an old problem that couldn't be solved before. And that then drives the need for innovation. And that's why I'm so loud about this idea. And when you do that, that answers the why now, right? Like it goes from beyond like, that's interesting to like, oh yeah. And it looks like either an old problem that can now be solved or a brand new problem that's created that wasn't there before that nobody had really defined, right? And I see kind of in your strategy and in what you're doing is the breadcrumbs for all of it. It's like staying opportunistic, seeing these things, moving quickly through iteration. And as we move into this like world of like, I think property management is in it right now. Like it's so many context changes. It's the generational wealth transfer, the regulatory stuff, and AI. So there's just going to be so much opportunity, whether it's a local market opportunity or a national kind of like thing, that having your mindset is super appropriate for this era. Like I think like today, like right now is when the monopolies get made and when like the contender, the challenger brand becomes like the go-to person in the industry. So I'm super pumped about how you've shared your process of how you're doing all of this, man.
Well, I think that's where let's look at you guys right at Vendoroo. I mean, it's a great example. So AI, for everybody knows already, but for the three people listening that don't know what Vendoroo doesn't do, Pablo, give me the pitch. Like if someone's like, what's Vendoroo?
Yeah, Vendoroo is using AI agents to handle all the mundane, overbearing, like burnout tasks of maintenance coordination so that you can have 85 to 95% of your maintenance be completely coordinated without human involvement so that you can spend your time on the higher leverage activities such as relationships with vendors, relationships with owners, growing the business, all the kinds of things that you focus on. So,
Exactly. Okay.
and
So when people hear that, and I go to these events, and half the events I go to, half the conversation is AI. I mean, they talk about AI till we just get sick of it. And I think most of us frame it wrong because the way it's framed is, hey, if you don't start getting on board with AI, you're going to get left behind. That's the narrative. And I think it's a stupid narrative. It's a stupid narrative because instead, the better narrative is this is an opportunity for you to substantially improve your business. Can you survive without AI? Of course, you can survive without AI as a business. Of course, absolutely. But if you want to be more effective and you want to be more efficient and you want to bring more doors home with less effort, then you will use it. And I look back, because we've been around a long time, to other significant things like this. I mean, when I started working for my dad, we didn't have email. I remember getting a call one day, Pablo, and this is totally true. I got a call from a guy one day, and he was trying to sell us a website. He's like, "You guys should have a website," and tell me. And I remember saying to him, I just don't think our clients really need a website from us. I don't see the benefit to us. No, thank you. Goodbye. Now, if I would have got the website early on, who knows? I probably could have got like denverpropertymanagement.com or whatever. I just didn't see that opportunity. I remember doing it I remember doing it with a fax machine. We had an owner client come to our office, and he was a big commercial owner. And he's like, "Hey, my office in California needs to fax something. What's your fax number?" I was like, "Oh, we've got a company down the street. This is what you used to do. Fax it to mailboxes, et cetera, and we'll drive over there and get the fax." It's like, "You guys need a fax machine." And I was like, "Gary, I don't know, man. They're pretty expensive." And he's like, "I'm going to go to Office Depot and buy you guys a fax machine. I can't believe we don't have a fax machine. We got a fax machine." And I was like, "This is unbelievable. Like, things just come to us out of magic. Like, this is unbelievable." Now, could my company have survived without a fax machine? Yeah, we could have, but we became so much more efficient and effective. And I was hesitant because I'm like, "Oh, it sounds scary. I don't know, a fax machine, a website, an email address." But I think AI is the same thing. Yes, it's a little bit scary because if you don't do it, you don't know it. You're like, how's it going to work? And yeah, it's a little bit scary, but man, what an opportunity. And if you delay, it's going to be like, "Oh, I should have got the website earlier. Should have got the fax machine earlier." That's the way I think we need to think about AI, not I'm going to get left behind. No, it's not about getting left behind. It's just about following that opportunity.
man, I couldn't agree more, right? Like I think about where I'm at right now, and it very much mirrors this story. Like I remember thinking I didn't learn to code in the 90s. I didn't start selling on eBay in early 2000, and I have like my friend's brother made millions of dollars doing that, right? Like I didn't learn like Google PPC in 2008 or SEO. I didn't start making like Gary Vee style content in 2011, right? Like and then I remember seeing like the cryptocurrency thing and the NFT thing coming. I'm like, how am I missing this wave? I don't want to miss another wave. Like I'm like the next wave I'm getting, I want to ride it, man. I'm gonna paddle into it and I'm gonna ride it. I'm at the peak of my powers. I want to do it. And I guess the universe conspires in favor of those following their dreams, because it wasn't like I went out and like sought out Vendoroo and like applied or whatever. They came to me. But I see it the same way, right? Like it's just like we are in the middle of one of these giant context shifts. There's
Yes,
so much opportunity.
absolutely.
If you are at the peak of your powers, or you want to put in like an inordinate amount of work over the next like year or two to become the expert in this thing and be at the tip of the spear of like the next platform, you very much can. It's there for you, right? It's there for all of us at this point.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, man. Anything else, Mark? Dude, this has been amazing. This is
It's been fun. It has been fun.
yeah. Anything else,
Uh,
man? Anything else?
Gosh, we've covered about everything. We've gone from monopolies to AI and everything in between.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, I appreciate it, Mark. I've gotten as I started coming on to Vendoroo and like realizing that property management needs to be my niche and understanding this world, it really has been your podcast and a couple of others that has been in my ear a lot and has informed my view of the world and how things operate. So just really, really appreciate the fact that you put that stuff out there, because it really has these giant ripples in other people's lives. And I'm super, super pumped that we get to come full circle sponsor PM Build and build this relationship, man. So thank you for doing this.
Yeah. Well, thank you. This has been fun. And I'll leave this with, I guess, the last thing. If people are listening with that idea of, oh, man, I mean, that sounds great. Mark goes to the office one day a week, but he's got his VP. It's like he's just living the life. I could never do that type of a thing. I think what folks have to remember is you don't get big and successful and then start doing this stuff. You start doing this stuff, and that's what gets you the success. That's what gets you the size and the scale. Starting to take Friday afternoons off was one of the hardest things I honestly ever did in my business, which sounds goofy, but for those of us that are operators in the business, you guys know what I'm talking about. The idea of taking every Friday afternoon off, you're like, that's impossible. I couldn't do it. Yeah, I get it. It sounds really, really hard. But when you start doing that, that's what then starts moving the business in ways that you couldn't imagine doing it otherwise. But you've got to be disciplined in doing that. Then the success follows. The success that you don't start taking 4 days out of the office when you are big. You start doing it when you can't do it. And that's what gets you to that next size. So it takes a lot of discipline.
So good, man. And I don't want to pass up the opportunity to say, I also believe that one of the biggest things, one of the most powerful kind of like weapons of influencing yourself to change is cognitive bias, right? Like seeing somebody doing it to me was like a major, when I first went to Funnel Hacking Live and I was like, these dudes are making money on the internet. I can be an entrepreneur, right? Like, and I say all this to say that I think that what you're doing with the Visit Grace events of hosting people at your office so that they can come and see what you've built, how you've operationalized it, right? Like open the kimono and come see for yourself why Mark has achieved this stuff and normalize it for you. I think it's probably one of the best investments in the property management space right now. So I just want to, I don't know if you want to plug that real quick and say what that is, but because
I appreciate that. Yeah. That's another example of following the opportunity, right? So yeah. I used to go around a fair amount. I still travel a fair amount. I'd speak at these things, and I was out in Florida. I was doing like 3 events, like back to back to back. And so I'd done event number 2. I was supposed to go out for dinner that night with some folks, and I was just shot. Like I was exhausted, Pablo. And I was sitting in my hotel room. And I was like, I'm canceling dinner. I'm going to go down to the pool. I'm going to get a drink, and I'm just going to just chill out. I'm shot. And so I was down there, and I was thinking, I was like, I'm tired of like getting flown around all over the place. And I go and talk to this group about what they want to talk about. And I really can't say what I want to say because I got to go on this topic. And I thought, I wonder if people would like want to come to my office. Like, I wonder, instead of me going there, I wonder if people would come out to my office and spend 2 days, and I could talk about what I think is the most important things about running a PM business. And so literally by the next day, 24 hours later, we had a page up on the website because again, I'm just kind of I was like, let's try it. What have I got to lose? And I didn't know how much to charge. I was like, well, I'll charge a couple $1,000. I don't know. So we put it up there, and I was like, we'll keep it small. We'll have 10 people. And like, it sold out in like 24 hours, like 10. I was like, bang, bang. And I was like, wow, there's an opportunity there. We're on to something type of a thing here. But that again, like, it wasn't some grand plan to be like, we're going to have people come out to our office and do events. No, it was just people asking. And it also was a culmination of people would constantly say, can I come visit your office? Can I come hang? And I'd always be like, no, you can't come to my office. So I'm busy. What are you talking about? So that one too is just kind of following those opportunities.
Love it, man. I'm going to let you go, Mark. I feel like I try to end this in an hour, but we kept talking. I appreciate you, man. Thank you for doing this.
This was fun. Thanks, Pablo. Cool.